Benedict Spence, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you? See, you weren't affected by some trends this morning. The rest of the country.
Yeah, it's the whole country, apparently. I mean, I wonder whether it's because they've suddenly announced that they're renationalising it, that it's just starting to fall apart, early.
The whole system's just sighed and gone,
the whole system.
Well, this is what it's going to be like anyway, so we might as well get on with it.
Might as well just get used to it, exactly right. Keir Starmer, great piece on the front of the Daily Mail today by Quentin Letts, likening Keir Starmer to George Lazenby, the one James Bond play actor who nobody liked, right? 7 pillars, 6 milestones, 5 missions, 3 foundations. I mean, it was a 59-minute bore fest, wasn't it?
It was, honestly, it's the fact that there was no, as you picked up on, the fact that of all of the things that really matter to people right now, perhaps the big one right at the forefront is immigration. And we had all of this talk about a reset. It's not really a reset. It's something else. It's a sort of, don't call it that. Don't pay attention to the 150 days of absolute chaos. It's not starting over. But by the way, this thing, we're just not going to talk about that. We're just going to hope that it goes away. I mean, it was very boring speech. It's Sir Keir Starmer. It was never going to be anything else. It was bizarre. Some of the the analogies that he was using. He was talking about obviously using the hairdryer to get rid of damp, and I think everybody who was listening sat there went, "Hang on, am I the weird one? Am I the only one that's never done that?" No, nobody else.
No, nobody's ever done it. But of course he goes, "We've all done it," and you just think, I don't even know why we'd use that sort of analogy. And you can see the members of his cabinet sitting in the front row, looking aghast. Rachel Reeves at one point sort of looks over as if to say, "Where's he going with this?"
Yeah, although Rachel Reeves, I suppose, given her CV, is probably the sort of person who would be sat there going, "Should I be doing this? Is this sort of thing? Should I perhaps pick up on this?" But honestly, it is very painful. One doesn't want to just sort of sit there and say it's a bad look, because government shouldn't be based on how things look. But they just aren't giving the impression of a government that understands what people want, that understands what the country needs, and frankly, of how to manage the optics around that. These are really basic things. And, to just set him up against a Labour predecessor. Tony Blair, even when he was doing things that you disagreed with, even when he was doing things that frankly bordered on the evil, was very good at being able to spin these things as being halfway competent. Keir Starmer could literally be handing out free puppies to everybody, and he'd still make it, at the best, boring, and at the worst, seem like a human rights violation.
They'd probably have died in transit or something. He'd pulled them out of the box and they'd be dead. That's kind of he's got the touch of somebody who sort of kills everything that he goes anywhere near. I mean, I've got this great one from Richard Dudley. He says, "Mike, it finally makes sense why Vidal Starmer was so eager to stay in Lord Ali's luxury townhouse. It's because his house is obviously riddled with damp." I mean,
I've just got this dreadful mental image of Keir standing there with a hairdryer, and his wife, his long-suffering, exasperated wife, just stood there going, "I married this man.
I know.
I married this man, and he thinks it's normal."
I know. It's unbelievable, isn't it? But when you look at what they actually said, because I'm the unfortunate recipient of emails from the Labour Party, because I once had to get myself accredited to go to one of their conferences, which luckily I never did. But I now get, a daily kind of newsletter from them, and so Keir personally sent this email out last night to say, "This is what I've been planning to say all day." And there's 6 points here, so I don't know whether these are milestones or pillars, but they all mean nothing really. Raising living standards so you have more money in your pocket. Building 1.5 million homes so there are decent, affordable homes in your area. Ending hospital backlogs to meet the NHS standard of 92% of elective treatments within 18 weeks. We know that's not going to be happening for 5 years. Put more police on the beat so you feel safer. Give children the best start in life so every child has the opportunity to succeed. Secure homegrown energy so bill payers are protected. I mean, it's all rubbish. It's nonsense, isn't it?
Giving children the best opportunity. It's like, what on earth does that mean? How do you quantify it? I mean, but the thing is also, it's the fact that it's 6, and we all remember what it was like when Rishi Sunak was giving out his sort of promises, and he picked more than 3. More than 1, frankly, is a bit of a gamble for a government not doing particularly well. But everybody was sat there going, "Why on earth are you just setting yourself up to fail with these things that are sort of very big ticket items, quite big tent headline things, but very low on what the actual details are?" And lo and behold, he failed on most of them. Well, we know that Keir Starmer is going to fail on most of these. We know that there will be attempts to massage figures and that sort of thing and say, "Oh, well, actually, this is the case and that's the case." But honestly, just a couple of things, 1 to 3 points 1 to 3 aims with tangible outcomes. That's the political lesson that everybody should have learnt by now.
Yes.
Even now, the government of adults waiting in the wings that is better prepared than any others still hasn't got this memo either.
And nothing changes. I mean, it's not as if overnight we've now got a new, thrilling, exciting, sort of era to look forward to, because now the flesh has been put on the bones. It's just more promises of more things that might happen in the future, but probably won't.
The thing about energy as well, we're going to have renewable energy and it's going to protect bill payers. And you just think, but we're already paying the highest rates in the world.
Yeah.
We're already paying through the nose for renewable energy and for fossil fuels that we are having to import from overseas because we've chosen not to use our own. Us, sat here literally on an island made of coal floating in a sea of gas and oil.
Yeah.
And we've decided that this is the route we want to go down. To protect bill payers? Well, you could change that overnight by deciding to utilize our own fossil fuels. That's not going to happen, though.
No.
We all know what's going to happen. And it's that man right there who's on the screen, if anybody's watching. It's going to be Ed Miliband's little dream about just a nation surrounded by windmills, none of which actually ever work.
No.
And if they did work, that they'd probably be an eyesore and have to be pulled down.
Well, exactly right. Although the Mail today has got Ed Miliband humiliated by Keir Starmer because he's watered down the pledge that he made on clean power because he had promised to make Britain a zero-carbon energy superpower by 2030. But the Prime Minister is now calling it a new milestone to put the UK on track to at least have 95% clean power by 2030. So it won't be a superpower. It may not even get halfway there.
Well, that's the thing. And here we are talking about him saying that he's going to be sort of safeguarding us, the taxpayer, and he's going to be making sure that our bills are fine. But this is the thing, and this is why it's quite wicked in a way. They understand that this isn't going to work. They recognise the pitfalls of this. They understand that the capacity couldn't even be built out to the degree they want with their current resources, let alone what it's going to do for bills. So the fact that they're sort of prepared to sit there and say, well, we're going to do this and it's going to be great for you, even though you can see before your very eyes them slightly slowing the pace by which they do this. And to be clear, this doesn't mean, though, watering down the timeline does not mean that they are going to be doing the sensible thing, which is scrapping a lot of this stuff and replacing it with fossil fuels to keep out capacity whilst they also go all in on nuclear power. That would be the sensible thing, a mix of those two things. But that's not what's going to happen. They're just doing the thing that they've said they're going to do more slowly because they physically can't do it. That's the ambition of this government, ultimately. Something that's not going to work, but on a much slower timeline.
Yeah, exactly right. And he's written a piece for The Times today talking about a new era of building with change people can see. Well, I mean, to be honest, I've always questioned the idea that we're not building enough houses, because literally everywhere I go in the country, whether it's in the southeast or whether it's in the north, there's houses being built all the time. Everywhere I go, there are communities becoming more and more crowded, roads getting busier and busier, so it's not really true to say that houses aren't being built. It may be just kind of the wrong kind of houses, I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. It's when you say things like houses are being built, but what about the roads? What about the reservoirs? Right. What about all of the infrastructure? See, people can build houses, but if you don't actually build infrastructure, if you don't build things that facilitate business, that facilitate work, that facilitate growth, if you just build the houses, well, yeah, that's not going to be the solution to everything, because if people can't afford the houses because there's not enough wealth being created in the economy and they can't afford the children, it's still just a very stagnant situation, and people get very frustrated because they can't get a doctor's appointment, they can't get their children into a school. So it's all very well for this government to say, yes, we're going to build more houses, which, by the way, broadly speaking, tend to be poorish quality. The long-term survival of a lot of these houses that you see being built in these estates, I suspect, is rather concerning. But it's all very well saying that we're going to build these things, and then you don't have the capacity to actually manage these things. People are sat there in their houses, but they can't get doctor's appointments. They can't get to work. The trains aren't running.
There's no public transport really where they are, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, of course, you just said there's no public transport, but they're being taxed to the hilt to use their car, and they're being told by XYZ date you're going to have to get rid of your car and replace it with something else. Oh, do we have the capacity to charge all of these electric cars? No, doesn't matter. That's the thing. You're being told, oh, you're going to have to make this transition, but the state is not providing you with the capacity to actually do it. It's nonsense.
It is. But at least they're giving Sadiq Khan a knighthood.
for services to the arms industry and not much else. Yeah,
presumably, yeah. Services to zombie knives.
London is awash with zombie knives. So it's a great time to be a blacksmith doing a roaring trade there, but absolutely nothing else as far as I can tell. Unless, of course, it's the occasional, I don't know, festival of LGBT pottery or something that's taken over Regent Street.
Yeah, or black culture in Trafalgar Square. James, as Price was in here earlier this morning, he said maybe when he does get knighted, whoever it is from the royal family should actually use a zombie knife rather than a sword to sort of dob him with. But we shall see. Benedict, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Conservative commentator Benedict Spence there.